Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. Can I just ask you to take your seats? And we need to begin. At the end of every day, we have a meeting with all the chairs and rapporteurs that were involved in that day. And last night, we decided that instead of having a recap over what we went through yesterday, we felt that there was a need to just push a few messages that may not be coming through as clearly or as helpfully as some of you might have expected. So what we've done is come up with a few core issues that we think need to be taken on board and understood as core issues regarding the management of MAM. And we're not trying to control the proceedings. The reason why we made that decision was because people at coffee and lunch and in the corridors were hearing concerns from you that you felt that the way that the sessions were going were great in what they were, but what about everything else that they weren't covering? So that's what we're trying to redress, and that's why this is called putting day two into a context. I hope that's acceptable with everybody, and this doesn't work. We even began by saying that there seemed to be confusion about what we were talking about. And we just want to underscore that we are talking about moderate, acute malnutrition, those 34 million children that Francesco identified for us on Tuesday morning. So we're focused on that, but we're not blinkered. We understand that MAM is not an isolated or discrete event. It often coexists with stunting, and it progresses into SAM, and it might revert into normal status. So it's a fluid and interrelated concept. We also wanted to underscore, this was said yesterday afternoon, but we also wanted to underscore that there is no silver bullet for MAM, nor indeed for stunting. That we need to understand the causes that are specific in a particular context, and to underscore the need to address determinants, the causes of undernutrition, not just the ultimate symptom. We've heard a lot about special products, and they certainly have their place, but in terms of MAM, we need to understand that they are one amongst many response options open to us. And they in themselves are not the magic bullet that we might have felt we were trying to convey. And just a reminder of the sort of broad categories of special products that are currently available. So again, MAM is a complex issue. It requires complex interventions, interrelated interventions amongst the sectors and amongst the actors. And from the first day, we were reminded of all our efforts in terms of making sure that our practices are based on evidence, that policies are informed by evidence, but we're also trapped by the current paucity of evidence, particularly around the effectiveness of nutrition-sensitive interventions. And although we can learn from the successes of the treatment of SAM, that can't teach us everything we need to know in terms of managing MAM. So, there's a challenge in terms of really trying to plug the evidence gaps and try and move forward in working in partnership with academia and governments and operational folk to really look at making sure that we can capture as many lessons, operational learning, that can feed into our future plans. There was also last night a reflection amongst the chairs and rapporteurs that we seem not to be talking a common language, which may also be confusing. That as stakeholders in the different domains within the stakeholders, we seem to sort of not necessarily be connecting in terms of the language that we're using. And there was a sense that we need, as a nutrition community, to get better at making sure that our messages and our advice, particularly to governments, is consistent and coherent and aligned. And we were also cognizant that we haven't yet talked about having a strategy for addressing MAM. We've talked quite a lot about treatment, a little bit about prevention, but there was quite a lot of attention yesterday around needing to take a systems approach. And within that, understanding that at all levels, capacity bottlenecks can really impede the progress that we envisage or want to be making. So this is my way of saying that we feel that there's quite a lot of conversations and questions and exploration going on, and we're not going to be able to answer everything or conclude everything neatly by 5:30 this afternoon. So we just wanted to underscore that this is not a beginning, because we've known each other for 30 years, some of us, but we want this to continue. And we'll come back to this at the final session, but we're exploring whether we can establish a discussion forum online that is by invitation only to the participants of this event, where we can continue to exchange and explore some of the nitty questions and challenges that we haven't probed into enough, and actually use the expertise and experience that's in the room a bit more effectively. And the way that we're thinking that might happen most easily with IEA's support is by using a portal that is currently on the ENN's website, and it's called ENNet. And I know that Mike and Andre are already, are you not moderators of that? You are, aren't you?
I am a normal non-expert user.
Well, we don't want normal non-expert users. We want experts, please. So we're exploring whether that portal can be made available to us for a couple of months, just to continue exploring some of the issues that have come up. Okay, so that's by way of not recapping yesterday, but trying to present what we covered in a slightly more broader framework. Now, is Emorn here? Hello! You made our job really hard, because you raised a challenging question, and we had, I think, around 25 responses. Well, you can shout out what we... So Nina and I have been compiling all the responses to the issue about what you feel is a priority in terms of meeting capacity development needs. And I'm not going to go through it, actually. We've run out of time. But broadly speaking, there was such an array of responses. People wanted technical training. They wanted training in how to communicate and how to educate and how to train themselves in nutrition around all levels, from community up through the system. A lot around training in monitoring and evaluating and learning and technical skills. Capacity in conceptually understanding and analysing and addressing undernutrition. And here it was capacity around juggling different policy options and what might make sense in a different context. Capacity around advocacy, I've already said that, haven't I, communicating, and also about the need to develop a systems approach, capacity to do that. How do we develop a systems approach to undernutrition across the sectors, across the actors, and across the levels, from international down to community? And then how to position MAM within the national political policy context as a development and health concern, and in terms of its linkages to key sectors that might be driven by export ambitions or whatever. And there were a couple of responses around the need for capacity to develop skills in the technology of food production, the infrastructure, the factories, the mechanics, but also in terms of quality assurance skills and techniques. So that's the array of stuff that came out of the capacity development feedback. Have you got all that, Amorn? Okay. Does anybody have anything they want to reflect or say, either about the capacity development or about the contextualization slides? Okay, wonderful. So, let's begin.